Kevin, you've had 4 very successful years as CEO of DAA, which of course owns and operates Dublin and Cork airports. When you started, Ireland's economic and indeed tourism recovery was only in its infancy. Now we're back to dizzying heights with 28 million passengers through Dublin alone last year. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
I think it's been a very satisfying journey. I think I clearly came at a time when the economy was very fragile, tourism was very challenged, and it's been a really exciting, satisfying journey with Dublin now up 46% over those 4 years. Now one of the leading European airports in the top 12, and in fact number 5 to North America, which has been a key feature of building out Dublin as a transatlantic, if you like, hub or a secondary gateway. And equally exciting is the turnaround in Cork after 7 very difficult years, and seeing Cork last year up 8%, the second fastest growing airport on the island, and now this year the very exciting development of transatlantic flights directly from Cork, and at the same time doing a really good job for our passengers in terms of 15 straight quarters in the top 3 for passenger satisfaction as measured by ACI across the top 30 airports in Europe. And lastly and critically, very strong, robust partnerships right across our industry, whether that's with Tourism Ireland, Fáilte Ireland, ITIC and your members, together playing a role in driving the business forward.
Yeah, it's very much a collective approach. Could you have foreseen that growth and that level of growth when you started the role 3-4 years ago?
No, I don't think anyone would have foreseen that level of growth, and clearly I came in at a very good time where the economy had been struggling. But I think there were a number of factors. One, the recovery in the economy here. Secondly, favourable position with respect to both sterling and the dollar.
Yes.
And the price of oil. And then very, very importantly, some very good decisions by the government, whether that's the abolition of the APD or the lower VAT for the tourism sector, in combination with our hard work and focus on developing business, working with our partners, the customers, the airlines, and a very attractive incentive program. So all those things came together. Absolutely.
And we talk about growth and capacity and so on. That in turn must cause a few sort of capacity challenges. Can we keep a pace with the growth? And we're growing again this year, and fingers crossed we'll grow again in the years ahead. So that capacity issue and that need for constant investment in infrastructure, what are your views on that?
Well, I view this business a little bit like a factory. It's a factory that moves planes in and out from the runway to the stand, and it's a factory that moves people in and out from the curbside to the gate.
And the challenge is keeping both parties happy.
And the challenge is keeping both going all the time, and we're continually adding capacity, and we're spending over 100 million a year on additional capacity right across Dublin Airport. And right now a lot of the focus is out on the airfield, clearly the new northern parallel runway, but we've also each year been adding additional facilities, capacity, stands, security, car parking, etc.
Yeah. How is that parallel runway going? Because we hear a lot about it in the media, and we know the plans are to have it built and constructed over the next 3-4 years. Is it going according to plan?
We've been making a lot of progress so far since we announced we were starting in April of 2016, but we've still a long way to go and lots of challenges to get that runway completed and operational in a usable fashion. I think it's important to stand back, Owen, and remember that Dublin is the Ireland's airport. 2/3 of the people coming on to the island come through Dublin Airport. So if we want the entire economy to grow and develop, we need Dublin Airport to be able to grow and develop. And right now we're too full. Between 5 in the morning and midnight we're full for 87% of the time, and we're 100% full on our main runway for a number of key hours.
Which limits growth.
Which limits growth and limits our ability to grow our business, grow the tourism business, and continue to develop. Because this is a scale business. So it's not as if people want to go to other airports. You know, it's about getting particularly new long-haul routes, long-haul development, and people want to come and go at times that work for them. And more particularly, our key airline customers want to be able to come to and from the airport at a time that works for their business and their business model. One of the great successes we have here is a large number of strong home-based carriers, particularly Ryanair, Aer Lingus, CityJet, and now Norwegian on the Irish Register. And they need to be able to get out first thing in the morning and back last thing at night, because their model is short haul, back and forth, and all about efficiency and utilisation. A key success that we've had over the last number of years has been building our long haul business and our transfer business, not just into North America, but increasingly into the Middle East and into Africa with the Addis Ababa, Dublin, Los Angeles service. And the times that those planes come and go tend to be at times when our runway is at full capacity. So we need to be able to support, like in any business, our customers, the airlines. So I think we're making good progress, but we've some big challenges and a long way to go. And looking forward to that being fully operational and usable in a few years.
Absolutely, I think we'd all agree with that. And there's a real opportunity, I suppose, for Dublin Airport, which is strategically so well situated between North America and the European bloc, to become a hub and a sort of a connecting point, which would obviously encourage airlines even further. That obviously is one of the aspirations, I suppose, of airlines that use this facilities, but also of Dublin Airport as well.
Absolutely, and I think what's really interesting is Dublin would have not been in the past a key connecting point, but what we've done is we've exploited our unique set of advantages in terms of where we are, which is on the way to North America and Canada. What we have, which is good capacity in the air and in the airport, very deep connectivity, particularly into the UK, where Dublin Airport is much more connected to UK provincial airports than either Heathrow or Gatwick are.
Yes.
So in fact, if you're trying to get from anywhere outside of London pretty much to North America, Amsterdam or Dublin are your two most obvious choices. So we've built on and capitalised on that opportunity. We've had the unique advantage of being the only capital city outside of North America in Europe to have the CBP, so you can do complete immigration and passport,
which is a huge bonus.
A huge bonus. And a lot of people say to me, well, that only helps the people transferring through, but in fact that's not the case at all. It really underpins the viability and the level of connectivity we have on long haul flights in particular, where if you take last year, 1 in 5 people that were coming to Dublin from North America were going somewhere else.
Yes.
But what that really does isn't just the somewhere else, but that really underpins the amount of routes, the length of the season for our routes, and the depth of route connectivity into North America and Canada, which has been a spectacular success story.
Absolutely, it makes those routes sustainable at certain times when they wouldn't be sustainable. Talking about Dublin, it's of course a regulated airport. Dublin has nearly 85% of air access into the country. That relationship between regulator, airport and airlines is critical, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think I'm on the record as saying I'd prefer if we were unregulated, but we are. And really what that means is our prices are set for us every 5 years by the regulator. And I think it's very important to bear in mind that Dublin is extraordinarily good value for money compared to other European airports, with average prices being at 2/3 of the level of other airports right across Europe. I think on the regulated side, that is the way the system is at the moment. I don't like it. We don't like it. We think it could do with fundamental reform. But at the end of the day, if our customers want something, if they're prepared to support it and they're prepared to pay for it, we're prepared to consider doing it. It's that simple. But what we need is a far more market-driven, far more commercial, far more flexible regulatory system so that it's able to cope with the changes in demand and the changes in growth, such as we've seen over the last number of years.
Yeah, because having a price set for a 5-year period is inflexible by its nature, because things can change within those 5 years that can dramatically transform a vision or a need for an airport.
Absolutely, but more importantly, what a lot of people don't realise, it's not just the price set, but it's the amount of capital you can invest. So we clearly, because we're regulated, if we invest capital that's not approved, we may never get paid any return on that capital.
Yeah.
So that makes no business sense. So therefore we need good certainty that if we make an investment, that we will be able to get a return on that investment. Or if you don't want to give us that certainty, let us be totally unregulated where we can take our chances. But we don't want to be in the sort of middle ground to be neither fish nor fowl, which we often find ourselves in.
DAA also owns and operates Cork Airport as well, of course, which you mentioned already. It's seen a return to growth, which is very welcome. Those transatlantic flights are very important, aren't they, and very welcome to Cork Airport.
Absolutely, but I think Cork has had a tough recession. It had a number of years of passenger decline where the economy fell back a lot further outside of Dublin, and at the same time that happened, the new motorway network had been put in place, really making it a lot easier to go from Cork to Dublin or any other part of the country.
Makes the island that bit smaller.
Absolutely. What we did though is we looked very hard at our business and we came up with a very good strategy that would take a period of time to work through. One thing was make sure that Cork stakeholders supported Cork Airport, and the people that were living in Cork and Munster, because Cork is the airport for the south of Ireland, were using Cork Airport when they should be. So that was about working together, seeing what was needed, making sure people understood what routes were there, made sure that they understood if a new route came, that it would only survive if it was properly supported. If we were bringing in new routes from abroad, that they needed the right support on the ground right across the infrastructure. On the other side, we had a problem that Cork was too dependent on outbound traffic.
Yes.
And we needed to change that to be more balanced, and we've made massive progress on that. In 2013, 30% of our traffic was inbound, and in 2016, I think in the last quarter, 43% of our traffic was inbound.
Which is much more balanced.
Clearly is much more balanced, means that you will get better routes, more routes, and particularly for your member zone, that's bringing a lot of inbound tourists to Cork and Ireland South. And Cork is unique in that it really, outside of Dublin, is the best place for tourism. You've got Visit Cork, you've got access to the Wild Atlantic Way, Ireland's ancient east, and also as an airport, Cork is its best airport of its size and scale in Europe, and consistently ranks as that. And in Ireland, it has, after Dublin, the best infrastructure, the best hinterland, and the best opportunity. So we're really delighted, and within that, it's really exciting this year to see our first transatlantic flights.
Yeah, which are going very well.
Going very, very well, and bringing a lot of inbound new people to Cork and the Munster area that wouldn't be here otherwise.
Which is great for Irish tourism. One of the things that's not so great for Irish tourism, of course, is the elephant in the room, and Brexit. It's a massive issue. It poses a real challenge for tourism, but also for aviation. And there's a significant concern that we in the industry have, I know you have as well, that a hard Brexit will have massive implications for the aviation regime that airlines operate under. How nervous are you of not resolving that satisfactorily?
Well, I think it's a big, big issue and not properly understood. What we live in is what I would call an ecosystem. We live in an island with a small open economy that needs to be able to trade, and it has very, very strong industries, particularly in aviation and particularly in tourism. Within that, Brexit brings not just profound uncertainty, but potentially a lot of very, very negative consequences. If I just called out a few. Firstly, right now, if we had a hard border, it is very, very difficult for the economy, for trade in particular. Secondly, once the UK leaves the EU, the Single European Sky Act and the various treaties will fall away, which will mean that it's quite likely that there'll be a lot less flights in and out of the UK from Europe. We seem to forget that will also include Ireland. Thirdly, for the Irish airports, clearly the UK still is an important marketplace, and one we treat importantly. 35% of the passengers in Dublin are coming to and from the UK for tourism, for trade coming in, trade going out. And in the regional airports, and if I give the example of Cork, that number increases to 58%. Then we're actually quite exposed to how the negotiations and the arrangements are put in place. If you think of it from an air travel perspective, 53% of the air travel from the UK is in and out of the EU. 39% for the country, for the Republic of our air travel is in and out of the UK. So we're sort of pretty similar, high dependency on each other. And the key people who will be leading and determining the negotiations, the French and the Germans, air travel is more like 6 or 7% from France and Germany to the UK. So clearly it's in a negotiation. The key partners on one side of the table, alongside the Irish, are much less exposed, dependent and concerned about good air access to and from the UK.
Yeah.
I think where that becomes a particular issue for us is in tourism. 42% of our passengers or our tourists are in and out of the UK. So firstly, clearly that's going to be impacted both by Brexit, air access, and by a weaker economy and movement in sterling.
Yeah, and it's our biggest single market.
It's our biggest single market, and we need to act now to defend that market and stay relevant for that market. Secondly, a lot of people don't understand that the UK is our largest competitor for tourists. We're not really competing with Paris, London and Rome. We're competing with Scotland, we're competing with the Lake District, we're competing with Cornwall and Devon. And the UK will be more competitive, more active, and already is, in investing in the product, the marketing, and ways to drive and develop that business. And then lastly, we need to make sure that we're investing through Brexit and not getting distracted just by Brexit in new long-term markets. For example, China. China is now the single largest market for tourists. They're the highest spending tourists, passing out now the South Koreans and the Japanese, which is why the job we all have to do in this ecosystem is to take care of our core market, which is UK, and fight and defend and not come back in 3 years complaining where it all went wrong. To continue to develop those important new markets through air connectivity, building the product, building the infrastructure for tourism, for example, China in particular, and to recognise we now have a new, more agile, aggressive, economically advantaged competitor for our tourists in the UK, and we need to deal with that. So we need to step up the spend and step it up now.
Yeah, absolutely, because investment is so important, but there's always a time lag to investment. So as you say, if we wait a year or two to see the impact, the negative impact of a Brexit and then start investing, we're kind of behind the curve already. So there's an urgency to this.
Absolutely, and I look at it really simply like everything else, like a business question. It's a business question, it's a business market. It's already falling like a stone. It's 7% down this year. We take no satisfaction. Dublin Airport is still growing really well this year, and we're really proud that we're growing well, particularly in the Middle East, North America, and in Europe. But we're falling like a stone in the UK, and this is the time to act rather than in 3 years' time.
Absolutely. ITIC is undertaking a strategy for Irish tourism to 2025, as you know. It'll be ready for the new year. You'll have moved on to your new role by then, but I know you'll be a keen observer of the sector going forward. How do you see the future for Irish tourism? Are you confident?
I'm confident, but I think we're at a crossroads. And if I look at tourism in Ireland compared to 15 or 20 years ago, we're far more progressive, we have a far better product, we're far better value for money. We're far better at targeting not just the markets, but what the market will do when it comes to our country. But I think we face some big challenges. Brexit, we just spoke about. There clearly is a massive issue in capacity in hotels, particularly in Dublin, that needs to be addressed. And there's a big issue in terms of the product and the way we market. And I think that we need to now move, we're in the era of micro-marketing, that people want things for them, places want things that are place relevant. So having a one-size-fits-all, get them to the island strategy, we need to move on, adapt and segment better and smartly. And we've terrific organisation in Tourism Ireland, we have a terrific organisation in Fulcher Ireland, but we need to make sure that they have the focus, the tools and the resources to continue to evolve. And I'd have to say in my 4.5 years in this job, I've been massively impressed by the calibre of people and thinking across the entire tourism sector here on the ground. We need to make sure that the collective investment, effort and strategy and execution is similarly joined up, aligned in a high quality. But I think there's potentially a very bright future. But if we sit and do nothing and we don't alleviate some of the pinch points, and if we don't recognise reality, it won't be so bright.
Great. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Well done in everything you've done here at DAA, and congratulations from the Irish tourism industry, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you, Owen, and I'd like to thank you and your colleagues in ITIC and across the industry for the great support they've given to not just to me but the entire team here, because both in Cork and in Dublin, one of our core jobs is to drive tourists into Ireland, and in fact Dublin as Ireland's national airport and gateway plays a critically important role in bringing tourists for the entire 32 counties.
Great.
So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kevin.